These little puppies here, gonna get to eat those soon. As you can notice here, this little fire's got some good cooking coals. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Wild. Today we are going over another fire video. We're going to talk a little bit about how to get started with your fire. Last week we talked about building a fire in the rain. Today we're going to go over the different elements that you need to build a fire. And just want to go ahead and throw this out there. We're not diving into the triangle: heat, fuel, oxygen. We'll dive into that in another video, but that is all important in your fire. Today it's just talking about gathering kindling and tinder, and really what you need to get that fire going and sustain that fire. So today, as we dive in, just want to show you this right here. Got me a little fire going, got me some bratwurst cooking in the background, so I'm going to tend to those in just a moment. We're going to start out real quick. I want to just tell you, so when it comes to making your fire, forgive my video skills here, when it comes to making your fire, it's very important to have the right things and go ahead and be prepared for your fire. What you don't want to do is get a flame and get it started and then have nothing to sustain it. Sometimes in the past I have done that, but as I've learned over the years experimenting, I've found that it is very important to have everything ready and laid out when you go to build your fire. Now, it's not going to be perfect every time. A lot of times, especially if you have more people helping you, it's very easy to have a bunch of tasks delegated to get this going. But as we dive in today, I just want to talk a little bit about what we have going here. So if you look back here, I have some different things behind me here. And these are different elements to that fire, okay? Keeping a check on these sausages, don't want to lose them. So I want to start out first with one of my favorites. This is called burnweed. It's about mid-October here in Georgia. This is commonly found in burned areas, is where it gets its name from, but you can also just find it in random clearings or sporadically out in the woods. But burnweed is really good. For one, the stalk itself is very hollow. I don't know if you can see that. It's very hollow. That the innards of it acts a little bit like cotton, so it'll catch very good. The leaves are great. The leaves, when I'm starting a fire, I would use them as is. Get that focus there. Or I would even crumble them up to get those little giblets going, okay? Another one of my favorites, this is a really great one, is the cedar strips. This is just a bark off of cedar. You want to find a good dead one. A live one is great in the rain, but for general purposes, you find some dry bark. I'll show you that up close. See how it's kind of hairy and porous? You can actually twist this and make it into a lot softer. And you can make a good little bit of tinder with this. And what I would do is I'd mix all these products together. So I have your leaves, your little cedar bark strips, and another personal favorite is pine straw. You can burn it as is, just break it up into little pieces like so, add it to your bed. If you have a big bundle of pine straw, make you a bed and put use this as the base and put all your tinder in it to help get that going. So when you get a spark, you nurture it, blow it, there you go. But you can also do this the same way as the other tinder pieces, and I'm not going to sit and do it for this video, but it'll start getting hairy. But yeah, you just roll it the same way. It'll get real fine and hairy, just like the cedar bark did, and then you would, of course, add that to your little pile. Now, last week we also talked about, with this, having our pine sap. Pine sap can easily be harvested. You can have it like a solid chunk of bark that's covered in it. This is a great find because you can cut slithers of this and use it, or it'll hold it on there. So you can take this with you, throw it in a little dry container. I have this dry container here. That's great. You just break it up to fit in there. But you can either crumble it up too, like we showed you in the last video, on your tinder pile, just to help that extra boost once you get your spark, or you can use it as a starter itself because it is very flammable. Okay, let me flip these bratwursts. These little puppies here. Gonna get to eat those soon. As you can notice here, this little fire's got some good cooking coals. All right, thank you for being patient in that. They're gonna be good. So as we progress, you know, you want to go up in sizes. So your tender, it initially, let me get this all together here. It'll just look like a pile of soft mess. And you can have it on a bed of bark like we had before. Or like I said, you can create another bed of hay, dry grass, just anything to create like a nest, a bird nest. That's the best way to put it. If you want to look for a bird nest, that would even be great too. Pile all this stuff in there, okay? Once you get that, you get your spark, you nurture it, you can cover it, block it from the wind, blow it. It'll grow, then you continue to progress from there, okay? Once you get your fire going, you're going to need to start small. I love these. These are the briar vines we found last time. Listen to that crisp. They're super awesome. They're kind of porous on the inside. I don't know if you can see that there, but that's your next size up. I would go with that. These are incredibly great. They're everywhere hanging. Most of the time you're going to find some dead dry ones. That's a good place to start, okay? And then as you notice, we're going to go up in size. So let me talk about that. We're starting to get into our kindling. I consider the briar still a part of the fire starter. Now we're starting to get into the kindling. Personally, what I would probably do is I would split these in half early on in the fire process just to help them take a little bit better. But if you notice, I have pine and hardwood. And we'll have to do a video kind of discerning and helping find the difference in the two. But from here on, I would combine pine and hardwood. The reason being is pine is going to have some oils in it. Pine is going to burn way hotter. And hardwood is going to sustain a lot longer. It's still going to burn really well, but it's going to sustain longer than pine. Pine burns really quick, okay? So as you notice, we're going up in size here. Starting to get into about pinky size. If you look at this hardwood, that's about close to the size of my pinky. So we're going to go with that. Again, I would split that. Leave some of them whole, leave some of them split. The whole ones are going to burn longer, so you have kind of some quick release and some extended release in there, per se. Sorry, in the medical field, so that's kind of funny. But then you start progressively going up. And these I would start splitting. And again, you want to mix pine and hardwood. Pine, you don't really have to split if it's dead, because pine is going to burn, again, burn hot and burn good. But I have pine and hardwood once more. And then as I go up in size, this is my final. I kind of like to end and coast with hardwood unless I need to kind of rekindle that fire. So the hardwood is, like I say, going to burn longer, but it's going to be very hard to get this to burn without smoking a lot. So you want to go ahead and split that. I would quarter this or get as many slithers as I can and have this continue to burn. But set some of these out around your fire in a circle. Let them start drying out. Let them start getting heat. And then when you apply them to the fire, that radiant heat that's cooking it, and we'll get into that in the heat triangle, that radiant heat is going to come over, get this kind of preheated for you. Then when you put it on the fire, it's going to take a lot quicker, okay? And if this is wet, the cool thing about this is if you get your fire going and you have some wet wood just laying around or something like that, pile it up and let it dry. That's great. We'll have to do a video also on different types of fires. You can build a fire that'll last 8 hours unattended. I like to call it an 8-hour fire, but there's different methods of fires that you can do as well. There's a whole world in just this one topic. But I want to get into another thing that I like to do too. When you're going out, in a survival situation, this is going to be more critical to find these things. If you're just learning to build fires, what I like to do is I have this little can and I have some things prepackaged in here. So if you look, incredible. This is jute twine. You can get it at any craft store, Walmart, Lowe's, stuff like that. If you look at the end of it, see how it's kind of porous? You can pull this stuff apart and it burns well. One thing I do in my hiking bag, I've used it, I have to make some more, is I get a block of wax from Walmart and I dip this in the wax, throw it in a Ziploc bag, because then all you do is you peel it apart, you have your wax and your tinder, it'll take a spark and light right up. So that's always good to have. Walmart fire starter blocks, cheap. I shop at Walmart, it's all cheap. Okay, this one's really cheap. This come out of my dryer. This is lint out of the dryer. It's really good. It'll take a flame with one spark most of the time. Going back to our fat lighter, this is good because you can cut the little slithers off, but you can kind of see how rich and sappy it is. It's full of sap. Okay. Then within that, I have a lighter. You never want to leave home without a lighter. Even if you don't smoke, throw one in your pocket. I don't smoke personally, but I have one in every corner of my truck, my house, every bag I got. But a lighter is good. Why? Of course, you have a flame. Well, this one don't, but that's good. There's a little flame. These sparks right here that you keep seeing, those sparks can be used to ignite this, much like this fire starter. So if you have a lighter that doesn't have fuel, do not get rid of it. That spark will still be your friend if you need to start a fire. This is just a ferro rod. I like the magnesium blocks too. Much like both, you could just scrape your little shavings in there and then get a little spark here. Look at me, I can't get it going. That little spark there. That one little spark will really light that lint up. And if you have a good bed of your tinder, that'll light up pretty quick. But it's good to have a can like this. I just stuff everything in there. As you can see, just kind of shift it around, stuff it in there. And one thing I like to do too is, like I said, this dry container. This dry container will fit right on top. It can hold some pre-made tinder. If you want to go ahead and get this done and have it in here for your campsite later, maybe as you're hiking, you can be picking these things up while you're walking. Go ahead and grind up some of these pine needles. Go ahead and grind up some of this bark, some of this other stuff. But you want to look for things like that that will help you get going. Okay. But I really want to harp on the tinder. Properties of your wood, properties of your fuel. When you look at this, like I told you, this is very porous. I'm going to kind of, let me peel this apart. Take my knife and kind of cut it here. If you peel this apart, you have inside there, it looks like little cotton. That stuff right there, especially when dry, this is a little moist because of the morning dew. When dry, that really helps. So that's another good thing about these briar vines, is they're kind of porous. So look for stuff like that. Yucca or yucca, if you're familiar with that, is a great one. Bamboo, when it's dry, great. You can split it. Bamboo takes a little longer to ignite because the initial wood itself is so dense, with the pores are so dense. That's the reason I like this hollow stuff, is because it ignites quick. Now, the downfall to getting a bunch of hollow stuff is your fire will go up and it'll be done. So you want to make sure you got that to sustain. But as we're looking at all this stuff, it's really simple. But if I was going to build a fire, I literally would lay it out like this. I would have each product here. I'd have it laid out. I always have a knife. Knife is good for shaving. So what I would do to split this stuff is the smaller. I would take like so, kind of get it started, but you want to move your hand because you don't want to cut your hand. And let's just tap, barely tap. If it's too hard to tap, I'd kind of be easy so you don't bust your blade unless you have a good knife, but still you don't want to damage your tools. Your tools are vital. If you look in here, see that hardwood? It's so beautiful. Man, it smells so good too. This is, I think this is oak. I have to do my research, and I apologize for not knowing that. I should know that. I do believe it is oak. Couple different things about woods. If you have pecan, some people call it pecan, but if you have pecan tree, if you have some of that wood, be cautious when you're starting a fire or building a fire with it, especially getting it bigger, because it pops a lot and it'll shoot little kernels of coals out, and you could spread a fire in a heartbeat that way. Sweet gum, it burns, but it smokes a ton. When you have stuff like hickory or um, oak, stuff like that, if you can get it lit and get it burning good, it doesn't smoke super bad, but it burns great. That's the reason I like those hardwoods. And I know I'm starting to ramble a lot, and I apologize for that. So there's our kind of little spiel on gathering different things for the fire. I appreciate all that you do and all your support in here. Please leave us some comments. Thank you so much for the comments on the last. Like, subscribe, share. Share is the biggest thing. Help us get this news out there. Let me know below in the comments what else you would like to see. Like I said, we have some more videos coming up on the heat triangle, heat, fuel, and oxygen, different types of fire you can build. We're probably going to camp out on fire for a while because there's so much here. One of my personal favorites is building fire shelters. So you can build a shelter of your fire that will sustain in the rain, or you can build a chimney fire to kind of like an eye on a stove. It's a focused heat. If you want to dry clothing, I'll show you different techniques on that, different properties of smoke, different benefits of smoke, stuff like that. You can use it to preserve, clean, all kind of stuff. So there's a ton coming down the pipe. Thank you so much for being a part. And as always, stay true and stay wild. Love you guys.